Hello, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So it's been a little over a week since I did a video. I was kind of letting the news cycle kind of um, develop a little bit on stories, and try to see where they went or whatever. Um, Before I did anything specific, I mean, I had considered doing some videos um, on some things like the Trump interview with Elon or whatever, but it didn't feel like it was enough to really talk about. I mean, there was a couple of silly things in there, but uh, anyways. But this video is really going to be centered around um, the election vibes and how things have shifted, and how those vibes are going into the DNC for this week, and potentially what could happen going forward, depending upon how things kind of work out for the DNC, or So, anyways, if you're liking this content, thank you very much for watching, and if you would like to consider subscribing, please do. It helps me out. Like, comment, all that good stuff. Share. Um, and it would be very much appreciated. Let me know what you think in the comments about anything I say today, or any other video, or anything you'd like to see me talk about, in the future or whatever. So let's get to it. All right. So basically, you know, let's go back. You pretty much the vibes as of, like, going into June, before, 4th of July area and all that kind of stuff. Before the RNC, um, your vibes were very much moving in Trump's direction as far as momentum through the election, confidence in the ones being elected or whatever, or campaigning and whatnot, because Trump was having his he was pretty steady going. His numbers were staying steady. Uh, Popularity was actually after the after the RNC, his popularity went up, particularly with his own base. But his actual poll numbers and stuff for the election didn't really budge, which was a little bit uh, peculiar, because usually after a convention, they do tend to go up a little bit, to kind of track, because like that popularity there, you have a is this going up your election? More people are getting more confident or whatever, and decided, or people that may not have decided at that point, or to suddenly decide, oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go with them. And so you see poll numbers, go up a little bit, um, with the percentage of the population that hadn't quite decided. But that didn't really seem to be the case for Trump. And although Biden was steadily slipping away, and the momentum, the feel, the vibes for the uh, people that lean more Democratic, or that are Democratic or whatever, um, they just were just falling by the wayside, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. More and more people talking about his age, and about issues with him speaking, and whether or not he'd get through the 4 years and everything. All we all know that. Um, and then we had the shift, right? Right at the end of the RNC, you had you know all the talks about potentially Biden pulling out, and you know who would take the place. We had this flip. Biden stepped down. Kamala sort of rose from there, uh, to dominance in that, for the campaign, and for the presumptive nominee. Um, and all the vibes switched. Everything changed. Suddenly, you had this boost of momentum, boost of energy, boost of confidence, on that side of the political spectrum, where people were getting excited. The talk was up. that helped boost Kamala up, majorly, um, and got her movement going. Uh, and you could clearly see the Trump and his campaign and the Republican Party in general, really. Um, uh, it was like they got hit, by this wall, and they didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. Um, and uh, and that sort of vibe and momentum shift to where and they just sort of stopped, and they really are having a hard time finding their momentum going forward. And so there's been a major vibe change across the entire election, um, and that has been very clear. And you've seen this reflective on both sides. So going into the DNC now, you have Kamala now. The actual pretty much has been voted as the nominee. She picked Tim Walz for her running mate. In my opinion, the absolute best pick she could make. As far as someone who somewhat embodies, and even in practice, advocates for the types of policies or direction that I would like to see the country move in. So that's the reason why I felt like he was the best. As his record as a governor, his record even as a in the Senate. I mean, in the House, it was all um in a more direction and policy decisions that I would like to see happen on a more national level. Um, and so it was phenomenal. And in that that move by her really, even though she was already being boosted, that really put the fuel under and has really struck um, a match in movement, lighting this campaign on fire, um, and moving it, with some very good vibes. So going into the DNC, she's up on a pedestal. She's the whole campaign and even their whole movement, or the campaign strategy that they are developing, and it's been kind of something that's little by little the wheels are turning, and things are being revealed and shown. Because one big issue is uh, because this has all been kind of fast paced, and they're trying to get out there, trying to get seen, trying to get talk about things, and you pretty much so far it's been in general to some degree, some specifics as far as like uh, policy idea, but as far as laying out at a policy agenda for the campaign that really hasn't completely been sort of laid out. I feel like that will more or less be laid out in the convention, um, or at least that's what I look forward to happen this week is them really break into some policy agenda, or which I mean, even if you look at the RNC and the Trump campaign, that didn't even really even what what little bit you could call a policy agenda was released at the RNC. Because Trump never really talks about policy. Um, he just rambles about stuff. um, uh, and makes up stuff, and he's gotten severely worse at that here as of late. But after this flip, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But yeah, so her moves have or the campaign is moving in a good way, a good direction. Vibes are all behind the momentum, the energy, and everything is all behind her going forward. Their strategy of uh, getting out there on the campaign trail, going to all these different places has been strong. Of course, we got the convention this week. I'm pretty sure that after that they're gonna go right back at it. Um, and uh, along with some ad buy stuff that they have released here recently, around like I think 160, 170 million dollars in ad buys across mainstream and social media. So they're branching out even on Fox News. They are, I mean, putting ads everywhere, and reaching out to everyone. They're trying to get their ideas and their agendas, or how they feel about their campaign, or them her becoming president, and even Tim Walz as vice VP, and his what he will contribute to, um, uh, to the White House or whatever. They're trying to get out to everybody, period. And then of course also talking about the failings or faults in Trump and Vance, and that whole ticket, and how they would, the how they would reflect in Washington. Um, so uh, they've got a really good strategy going forward. Even releasing at the end of last week a video, which I actually posted the video like on in just like the post section of this channel, and some other areas, where on Kamala Harris's YouTube they posted, kind of like a camp, not really, that wasn't a campaign ad, but it was just a video, where it was her and Walls, and they were just sitting, and they sat down at a table just talking and chattering amongst each other, talking about, what they like about each other, and just other little things. Like it was just such a kind of it was a it was going for that, table talk kind of idea of them being just simple, normal people that come from, you know, regular families, and how they just sit down at the table and just have a cool, full, fun, you know, uh, uh, discussion about, whatever. And it come off just so easy. It's almost, now granted, yes, it was probably to some degree, planned, obviously, what they might would talk about, or at least to some degree, some questions and how they would, yeah, true. But the whole feel and vibes of that video were just straight up down to earth, just common, regular kind of, family style, just sitting at a table, chilling, talking, whatever, you know. Um, and it was great. It was a brilliant idea in my opinion. Um, Probably should be put into an ad, at least some to some degree. But it was, anyways. I guess I'm saying that the strategy that their campaign is having, and doing right now, and if they continue on that trajectory, you know, continuing after DNC and moving forward all the way through, into November. Um, everybody's been talking about this whole um honeymoon phase sort of thing, where yeah, she's going to get a boost, which she has. Her numbers compared to Biden's are way up. She's now, where Biden was, in most cases 3 to 5 points, and sometimes 6, 7, 8 points below Trump in polls. Kamala has, in majority of polls, on average, she is either equal to him, or in some cases 1 to 2 points ahead. So, um, now granted, that's within, easily talk about within the margin of error and whatnot. Yes, sure, and true enough. But the fact, but this momentum is pushing, it's continuing to push, and as long as they stay on that trajectory, and also on the flip side, as long as the Trump campaign, which I'm about to talk about, continues on their trajectory, um, the vibes are just going to continue moving in her direction, and going into November is not going to look very good for Trump. Um, and that whole thing. So now on the flip side, like I said, Trump's campaign has been really you could see it flailing a little bit and having issue. Trump himself personally is having a hard time um, facing the fact that he's going up against Kamala. Um, in many cases, even in his rallies and in his interviews and things, he is finds himself talking more about uh, talking more about Biden than he actually does Kamala, because he just like it just comes off and it feels like he is just stuck in that, and he's really looking like the old man, in the race now, where he's just stuck in his ways or in his thoughts and like it, if it being that it was supposed to be this, but now it's not, and he doesn't know how to move from that. He doesn't know where to go. He's lost. And he just has that feeling, even though he's trying to talk his way through it, it still has this, you know, essence feel of like he just wishes Biden was back in the race. Even to the point of the rhetoric coming from him, talking about how, oh, he's heard, Biden is going to make a comeback, and at the DNC, he's just going to come back and be like, hey, you took this from me, and I want it back, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, where is what are you talking about? um, that's not happening. There's no way in the like no, it's done. And but it's like this wish casting that Trump is doing. Um, like he's longing for the days when he knew with full confidence that he 100% was going to win this election, because he was going up against the older man that is half seen now and can't form full sentences and mistakes leaders for other leaders and people that are dead and whatever, like the whole thing. And now he's going up against somebody who's significantly younger, not only just in age but also in appearance and in the way she can put things, speak in her speeches. Now, granted, when she's more of an interview style, which we have not seen quite yet, because like I said, I've already talked about how I feel like she has had somebody do some training with her on talking and stuff like that, because she has gotten way better at the like campaign type speeches, and reading off a teleprompter and playing off the mood of the crowd. She's gotten a whole lot better at that. But it's still the big question is whether or not, when it comes to interviews and her being asked questions and her having to, reciprocate an answer that sounds, with it, which she has had trouble in the past. We haven't quite got that yet. And hopefully we will. Hopefully she will decide. And according to her, from what I think I'm hearing from her campaign and people talking about it, is that she does plan on having some interviews. It's just right now, but she's just got this momentum with these the campaign rallies and all this stuff, and it's going good for her. And she want. I'm pretty sure they want to keep that momentum going. But at the same time, she's gonna have to make room for some actual sit down media interview, and you know, and just have to show her capability there, and if that is better than it previously has been. Um, but like I said, Trump is clearly having an issue with this, um, and it has even been shown. Um, I forget who. I can't. John Stewart. John Stewart had a very good compilation last week on his show where they pretty much spliced. together, the way Trump talked about all the kind of uh, catchphrases and words and stuff of how he was talking about Biden versus how he talks about Kamala now, and it's like cut and paste. Everything he previously talked about Biden, he just cut Biden's name out, put Kamala in there, and it's the exact same thing down to I mean, exactly the same. So it's like, which shows me that they have no idea how to face Kamala right now. And they've just been trying to just copy and paste her in, which probably in their minds they're like, well, there's really one and the same because it's just really her, she's just continuing his campaign, so they're really the exact same thing, so the argument gets still the same and blah blah blah, but not really. I mean, they are different people. She has even had instances where she seems to be leaning and moving herself in a different path direction from in trying to separate herself from Biden in some policies. Um, so clearly, the more and if she continues in that movement, especially with the addition of Tim Walz, and if she actually does continue moving more in his direction, then clearly they're going to have to come up with more like talking points and arguments against her that separate her from their arguments against Biden, because otherwise it's just going to. But here's my big issue with Trump, um, and how his campaign is, or in his strategy behind his campaign. And I'm not right now. I'm specifying his strategy versus the actual campaign strategy, or the people that are trying to have a campaign strategy in his campaign, is that he doesn't know how to speak to people that he either doesn't know how to speak to people who are not quite with him yet, or he doesn't care to talk to people who are not quite with him yet. Trump is all about feels and vibes himself, but he only vibes on those who are vibing with him. And that's the only ones he cares about. So when it comes to like, he's a panderer. So he's all he wants to talk about and all he wants to argue are arguments that for certain the people who are with him and who back him are 100% going to be behind, and are going to yell and cheer and hoop hooray for him. But he never makes arguments that could actually pull in somebody who may not quite be with him yet. And that's where he's failing. He's just constantly, his only concern is those that he already has. And it's like, you when it comes to a campaign, you don't have to worry about those you already have. You should be focused and worried on those you don't have and pulling them into the fold. And Trump just clearly doesn't know how to do that, or either doesn't care to do that. It almost comes off as if if you're not already with me, then I don't need you. You know, I mean, he already is telling those that are with him that he doesn't need them. I mean, talking about how you won't have to vote anymore and all this kind of stuff, and I don't really need your vote. I mean, he's literally said that to his own voters, and it's kind of weird, um, because almost to the degree like, we don't really even need your vote. I've already got this election, as if they've, got something in behind the scenes going on that's going to guarantee him getting into the White House without even people voting for him. And that's kind of weird. Um, and I don't really understand, like, or like, it's certainly something to be of concern of, um, uh, especially while he's projecting that, and has always projected how uh, the the Democratic Party is the ones trying to steal the election. Um, but it feels like his campaign and the people behind his campaign are trying their best to get him on focus and on point, and to start, and to change the direction of the campaign in a more promising direction for them, at least to battle against Kamala. But getting him on board is the problem. Um, it just like recently there, he was supposed to have had the last campaign in uh, Montana, the last rally in Montana, was he was actually supposed to like break down policy, like actually have a policy talk to the campaign, the rally, goers. And and while he attempted that, and he had but when he had his readout to go over, he did that for so long. But as he's already spoke himself, when it comes to the rallies, he's more off the cuff. He doesn't like speaking off of a teleprompter. He just wants to go with the vibes. He wants to rant his rave and just talk all his shit, because he knows that that's the kinds of stuff that he gets, reciprocates from the crowd, because that's when he gets to chant certain, words and things that they will, he will get a response from, and it makes him feel good and makes the rally feel good. So he eventually, went off the cuff and started his own thing again, and trashing Kamala in the most, it just like he has attempted here lately with racist type rhetoric and all this other stuff. When even the more misogynistic stuff. I mean, that's another Trump's problems is he doesn't know how he constantly is like his only way of working through something is to belittle the things around him, make himself look. He inflates himself and makes everything else around him look belittled. So, and that's Trump. That's Trump being Trump. That's the most Trumpian thing in what he's always done. Which for me, someone like me, is completely off-putting. But for his base, they seem to feed into, and they seem to like, because it makes him like a strong man. Although there's been many things that he's done that's shown that he is not. And you could argue those type of reactions are those of someone who is actually uh, weak, and like uh, unconfident. um, so it so there's an issue there, and if they continue on that trajectory, which right now he's having an issue even on the rallies themselves, because he's used to hitting several places all at once, but ever since the assassination attempt, the whole thing has shifted. I do feel that there's a degree of him worried about his safety and stuff. So there's no more outside campaigns. So now, I mean, rallies, they're all indoors now. There's only like one or two a week, which potentially could be because they're having to actually find indoor places to have the rallies. So there, and that takes a little bit more work to figure out a lot of times than an outdoor rally. Um, and also uh, you have an issue with crowd size there too, which he has an issue with. So he's probably trying to find, the biggest places he can possibly get a hold of, so that he have the largest crowds that he can possibly get. Sorry, I have a uh, little stiffness in my neck today. Um, so because he is a huge concern with himself looking bigger than everybody else, even crowd size and everything. So that's certainly an issue for him, and reason why he doesn't really even have like it's like almost like a week to week thing where things are being scheduled now instead of having like a whole list of stuff scheduled out like he previously would have had. So So, anyways, the vibes are certainly changed, and there's and it's moving in Kamala's direction. And Trump and the campaign are flailing, and just like they're having a hard time grasping their footing going forward with Kamala. Um, we have the debate stuff coming up, hopefully soon. Hopefully, one of them, they'll actually agree to some stuff, and they'll actually show up and they'll actually debate, and we'll see how that works. Maybe he can get some steps and footing going there if he can actually really like, you know, hardcore or go against her and like come out ahead on that. But maybe then the momentum can shift a little bit and or become a little bit more equal. That might help him. But anyways, but yeah, certainly going to the DNC right now, Kamala has the momentum and the vibes, and which has completely changed the whole dynamic of this election. And that has been clear, and continuously becoming more and more clear as we go. So, anyways, that's pretty much just all I want to talk about. We'll see how it goes from here, and yeah, um, hopefully, we'll see in the next week or so how we'll start to see things get a little bit more uh, clear or something. But anything can happen, anything can change, and we still have 2 months to go. So, anyways, thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully, like what I've discussed here. I can't speak right now. So thank you very much, and until next time, it's been Clear Talk. Peace. I'm out.